Hello viewers, today I'm going to talk about engines in aircraft. Now, what does an engine do in air or in anything? What does an engine do? An engine sustains movement by harnessing fuel to generate power to keep the object in motion. So in a plane, for example, it doesn't produce lift because the wings produce lift. It produces thrust, which produces sustained flight. And in a car, this makes it go forward. Well, any direction really you point the wheel. So, with that being said, there are, well, okay, so first of all, when we talk about engines, what we are talking about when engines first came about. So this is Industrial Revolution time. This is the 1700s about. So then they decided, okay, so they had a good supply, or should I say an abundance of coal, which allowed them to eventually create the steam engine. Now, the steam engine was powerful for the time, but it was highly inefficient. Highly. It probably only ran maybe at 2% or 1% efficiency of what it could have run. Engines today run at 30% of efficiency, which is actually not even that good either. That's not good at all, actually. Because in 1864, an engine would run at about 4% efficiency. And in 1890, around there, the first car was created. Well, of course, you could still run faster than it, but it was still a significant leap in technology, of course. But many things were created. Very many things. Now let's go on to the types of engines. Now there is the two-stroke and the four-stroke engine. Now, how do these engines work? A two-stroke engine, all it really does is sucks in air, moves two pistons up and down, so one and then two, and then the fuel is ignited. There is no compression. Fuel is just ignited and then exhaust. So I guess you could call it a three-stroke engine, but they call it two-stroke because of the 1-2 movement of the pistons. So there's obvious disadvantages and advantages of the two-stroke engine. A two-stroke engine puts out more power than a four-stroke engine, but at the cost of less efficiency. And it's also harder to cool than a four-stroke engine. So this obviously doesn't make it good for aircraft. But you might find a two-stroke engine in your weed whacker, perhaps, or your lawnmower. But you'll definitely find one in a chainsaw, definitely. Now there is the four-stroke engine. So how does the four-stroke work? So the first stage is intake. the intake stage. So what it does is that it intakes air, and then, well, of course it takes in air, then it decides to compress it, and then fuel is added to it and lit, and then it is pushed out in exhaust. That's how the four-stroke engine works. So how did people, of course we all know you measure power in horsepower, but how did that come about? Well, James Watt, the inventor of the steam engine, found that in English, so he measured this on a horse, and he found out that in a period of time, I actually don't know what period of time because it didn't say, the horse could put out about 33,000 foot-pounds of work. In a relative given time. So that's why we refer to it as horsepower today. Because it really is the power of a horse, and we're standardizing it, what a horse can do, and of course what a horse can do. So work is accomplished by power and movement, okay? That's how work is accomplished. And we have become accustomed to these devices, of course. I mean, there's no way we're going to go back into the Stone Age and kind of live it out, are we? No. We need engines to power everything. Okay, there are many different fuel sources. There are, of course, there's jet fuel, and there's gasoline, oil, solar, electrical, nuclear reactor, and steam. And there's also more, but we don't tend to use that anymore for a plane, do we? So, truly, how efficient are, well, as I said, 30% efficiency, which actually isn't that much. Not very much at all, actually. But why is this? Well, they really haven't figured out how to harness the power of the engine properly, have they? And they need to do so. There are also three types of engines that will be used in a prop. So a Cessna. So there is a Cessna is a four-stroke, four-cylinder engine. So it is a horizontally opposed engine. So that means it's kind of slanting. And then there's a V-shaped engine, which obviously is characteristic of a V-shape, so it would be like this, the front. And then there's a radial engine. If you can think of a radial tire or a circular shape, that's what a radial engine basically is. Now, each engine, of course, has its advantages and disadvantages, and some may need superchargers, some may not, or a turbo charger, which actually just makes the plane better at altitude. Of course, higher altitude, right? The plane can climb faster, can go faster. It has a higher surface ceiling. It's because the higher up you go, the thicker, or sorry, no, the thinner, the thinner the air gets. The air is thickest at sea level. The higher up you go, the thinner air gets. So at 33,000 feet, it's probably negative 30 degrees Celsius at least. And again, you definitely couldn't breathe out there. Air is much too thin. Much too thin. So the people that came up with the first four-stroke engine also are the people who led to Mercedes-Benz. In 1890, they created Daimler and Benz, which, as we know today, is Mercedes-Benz, which is actually pretty cool. So they pioneered the first four-stroke engine, and today we know Mercedes-Benz for its, well, overpriced, luxurious, very synonymous cars that a lot of us seem to enjoy. So of course, they had to do much work. They had to tinker, they had to toy, and they had to do a lot of things to get it right. So I ask you, viewers, that we really appreciate what we have, engine-wise. So, thanks for watching.